Do you know what? You know that the statue of the helmet?
Yes.
I used to get into that when I was little.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, everybody, pay attention. There, she used to get into that helmet.
Oh, you're online now.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I've been looking for you since Monday. Right. I'm sorry if we got a little domestic here.
Domestic?
We're on live now.
Oh, nice.
Right. Now, this is Amar, is that right?
Yeah,
Amar, who is the new addition, except I couldn't find him. He's found every place in this hotel to hide.
Yeah,
Is that right?
No, the young rapscallion I am,
Like he is. Anyway, I'd love to have just a chat to you in a few minutes' time. We're going to actually put up this morning, just to fill you in, and it helps fill the viewers in as well. We have two marvellous barristers who contribute. And sometimes, because they're over the road sending people to prison or getting them out, as the case may be, they come and they talk to me on a Sunday night. So we tape the thing. So I'm just about to show one of them talking to me this past Sunday night. So when that's going, you come and have a chat with me. Right?
Oh, perfect. When do you be here? Like 10 minutes?
Yeah, 10 or 15 minutes.
10, 15 minutes.
Just to suit you.
Right? Perfect. Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Okay, that's lovely. Now, I have to tell you that the support staff here are brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And you saw Sharon there, and now Amar's joined the team, and they are very supportive. They are terrific. To have that sort of staff looking out for you is wonderful. And I've got it very, very complicated here this morning. So let's see if we can actually show what's going on. Is there. Now, that camera is pointing into the heart of the hotel. So although you can see me here, this is another bit of the hotel, and you can see just how ancient this hotel is. It is a 15th century coaching inn. It's got a wonderful history, and although it's not everybody's cup of tea, many people love to come and have their drink here. They like to come and have their coffee here because it's nice and comfortable and feeling great. So Amar is waiting in the wings here. So what I'm going to try and do now is to introduce you once again to our young Turk barrister Richard, because he and I had a chat on Sunday night. So here we go with any luck at all.
That you've got a sensible client. Because if you don't have a sensible client, Keith, this is why I've told you time and again, I'm not going to represent you. If you've got a sensible client and they take sensible advice, it's always their case, their decisions, you can only advise them. Then that makes life easier. The second thing you want is you want a sensible judge, and I've got one of those over in where I'm doing this case out of county. A really nice judge who's very measured, has allowed us to get on with it. Pleasure to be in front of, allowed me to make some really appalling jokes, if I may say. But there we go. But the single most important thing that you can have when you're doing a case is that you have a reasonable opponent. So another member of the bar whom you can trust, who will do their job properly, and who won't seek to snitch on you or put the boot in or say, Mr. Barton said in the robing room the following things. When, you know, you can imagine, Keith, that robing room conversations, that is where the barristers stick their finery on. They're completely out of bounds unless you specifically agree that they should be revealed. So it's a sort of It's a closed box where you can talk candidly, and a lot of good comes out of that, because in fact the case I'm doing at the moment, sorry, I'm going to whitter on for a bit. Is that okay, Keith?
Yes, it's okay, but just let me say that the big difference between you and I is that it is as you described for you, but for me, I mean, particularly when I was broadcasting in the States, I had 8 million people watching me each day, and I was not aware of any of them, and you couldn't gossip because everybody would hear the gossip.
No, I quite understand that. I'm not sure I've ever had 8 million jurors in one case.
It's rather a lot.
It would be a lot into any courtroom. I've lost my thread now, but it doesn't matter.
Sorry about that.
No, don't worry. So, the most important thing is having a decent opponent, and I do have a young chap who is very much significantly younger than me. For whom the case is quite serious. It's a big case for him.
Ah, I see. Yes. No, I thought you were talking about our partner in crime.
No. So this young fella is dealing with a case that's within his orbit, and is very much true. It sounds like it's but there's no harm. But it matters. The odd thing is, here's a case, is that if you prosecute someone, we galloped it because the judge was nice.
Can you lean closer to your microphone? We're losing your voice.
No.
That's it. That's better. Yeah.
Because the judge was nice, and because the opponent was nice, and the judge gave us time, we finished all the evidence today, and this was meant to be a 5-day case. So, in fact, giving us time to sort things out shortened the case enormously. There's a lesson there, not one that's always learnt by the judges. But the other interesting issue that does arise out of this, or maybe not that interesting, is that I'm sure your viewer and his dog will be aware that many cases have a victim, and it's a very obvious victim. And if you're prosecuting, you need to manage their expectations, you need to deal with them, you need to make sure that they give their evidence in a way that they're content with. You need, if there's a conviction, that there's what's called a victim personal statement, which is a further statement setting out how the case is impacted upon them. Some cases you don't have a victim, and there are various reasons for that. Some of them, tragically, and I've dealt with many of them, is because the victim is dead, caused by a whole range of reasons: murder, manslaughter, death by dangerous driving, etc. And then you need to manage the expectations of the family, which sometimes can be a trickier process. And in particular, where there is the potential for some suggestion from the defence that it might be the deceased who was at fault, or at least partially at fault. And you will appreciate that can raise the hackles. And courtrooms aren't that large. And in those cases, families often come along both sides mob-handed. And you do need to deal with that. Some cases have no victim because they're, quotes, victimless crimes. So, for example, tax fraud, which I don't prosecute simply because life is too short to deal with something as dull as that. So, where there's a sort of nebulous concept of the state being the victim. But oddly enough, you do get some cases And the reason I say this, because I was thinking about it this week, is where the quote victim, the complainant, has simply not cooperated with the process, doesn't want the person to be prosecuted, hasn't made a statement, refuses to come to court, refuses to talk to the police in any way whatsoever because they hate the police. Those are really tricky cases because firstly you have to decide whether or not, and there are powers. You can witness summon somebody, which is an officer goes around, knocks on the door and says, hello sir, you've got to be at court on Monday. And if they don't turn up, hello sir, Monday evening we've got a warrant for your arrest and you're now coming with us until you do give your evidence. You can imagine the problem with that, Keith, is that very often they get in the box and say nothing. So it's a difficult balance deciding whether or not you go down that route in any given case. I did a case in Lewis, I may have mentioned it previously, where a teacher ran away with his 15-year-old pupil, ran away to France because they were apparently in love. It had a lot of publicity. I've never had publicity like it in a case, and I've done far more serious cases than that. And we weren't sure whether she was going to turn up. I was prosecuting it. And the officer, it was a very, very senior officer, top-end officer, went off because, in fact, she was doing an exam at school in the morning. Went off and he had the witness summons, which is the thing saying you need to attend. But he also had, and this is very occasionally is permitted, he also had a warrant. So that if she didn't comply with the summons, and it's deeply regrettable that you have to come to this, but there's a protection of other people. He had, if he needed to, this very, very senior officer, using his discretion, had the ability, had he needed to use it, he didn't, to arrest her and bring her to court. It's an interesting process, the whole reluctant witness thing. People have a whole range of reasons why they don't want to get involved. One of them is the delays. One of them is I still love him. One of them is I don't want to give up a day's work. And there's a whole host of others, as you can well imagine. And then people disappear sometimes and that sort of thing. But I have to say, this week I've been wrestling with all those problems. Sorry, that's a long ramble, but
you painted the picture very well.
It's not quite as it appears on all those crime programs that you've mentioned to me before, Keith, where people just turn up to court and the prosecution calls them and whatever. 9 times out of 10 it is like that. And if you're prosecuting, they're given their statement, you go and have a chat with them, you can't talk to them about the evidence, but you just reassure them that this isn't America. So no one's going to shout at them, no one's going to bully them. If they start trying to do that, I, as the prosecutor and the judge, will stop that happening. And if you can't remember something, don't worry, because we can shove your statement under your nose, even though you can't have it to begin with. And I do tend to say to witnesses, prosecution witnesses, look, you're going to go away from here with two thoughts. You're going to, first of all, think that was a bit dull. And it wasn't half as, combative as I thought it was going to be. But secondly, and more importantly in a way, and I can understand, I've never given evidence, but I can understand this, that they build themselves up because they're going to give evidence in a criminal court. And there's that adrenaline flow then. And then when they come out, case hasn't concluded, but when they come out, all that adrenaline drains away and they will feel very down. And they just need to be assured that, in fact, that's not because they've screwed up giving their evidence. Sometimes it is they've screwed up giving their evidence, but generally it's not, I promise you. And if they have screwed up, it's probably my fault if I'm prosecuting and I haven't led them properly. But people ought to know that, that there's that nervous tension of talking in public. I feel it every time I talk to you, Keith. That one man and his dog watching us frighten me to hell. But you do need to tell them that is perfectly natural, that you will feel that. Don't worry. If you want to have a weep, that's fine. Sometimes people have supporters there, witnesses have, and I always advise, look, one of you, whoever it is, don't come into court. Stay outside. Be there for them when they come out. So don't dissect the way their evidence happened or didn't happen. Just be there as a comfort. God, I sound like a bloody social worker. Sorry, I'm going to stop talking.
Can I just give you one assurance? I just got the latest figures in. It's still on, but you've got 700 dogs watching.
That's good. Well, you've got 701 because Jed's here in the corner.
Right.
I'd let our other dog out, but he is always confined to the kitchen because we don't trust him with the furniture. I have to say, the soft furnishings, he will chew them.
Oh dear.
Keith, I hope you don't mind, but I've rambled on a bit now. I hope we've still got time, haven't we?
Yes. You haven't rambled for that long, actually.
Oh God, if only you knew. I just thought it would be, and I know you, or I'm told from B2, Philip, that you have discussed this previously. The present conundrum that the BBC have about a presenter, and obviously we're not going to mention any names or anything of that kind, that goes without saying. But you're a journalist, I'm a lawyer. It sounds as if that's almost exactly at the crossroads of where our two professions combine. And I've got some views on things, and I might express those now if you don't mind. And then I'd be very interested to hear your views, despite the very bright hat that you're wearing, if I may say.
It's a new addition.
Yeah. And there are charity shops in Lewes who would take it, I'm sure.
Take it back, you mean?
Yeah, take it back, quite. Yeah. It's an odd little anomaly from the legal point of view that the age of consent for what are referred to as contact offences, in other words, having some kind of sexual contact with somebody else, the age of consent is 16. But the images legislation predates that, and the age there is 18. So that if somebody is 17 and somebody incites them, that is, encourages them, tells them, gives them money, whatever, to send what used to be called indecent images, in other words, sexual images of themselves, when they're 17, that is an offence. But this case has a number of difficulties, as I'm sure you will appreciate, because it's slightly fast-moving. It's the lad's mother who has made the complaint. It seems to me that regardless of where the truth lies, that was dealt in quite a tardy fashion by the BBC, and they need to be rebuked for that. And I know that other people in his family have expressed a different view. And I know that through lawyers, he has expressed a different view. And there's an interesting little question there, which is, how has he afforded getting his own lawyers involved? Because, as I'm sure, Keith, you will appreciate, that if somebody, don't know who, but if somebody persuades a potential witness to a criminal offence, which on the face of it, from what the mother has said, is a criminal offence, persuades the witness to retract and not give evidence, then that can constitute witness interference, which is a statutory offence, or it can, or it constitutes the offence of attempt to pervert the course of justice, which is in fact a common law offence. They're both very serious, and the starting point for both of those is custody, depending on the circumstances, how long that custody is. But it's rare for people who are convicted of attempting to pervert the course of justice don't go to prison. So that ongoing dynamic within the case, or within the matter, is interesting, because whoever this person might be, who may or may not have paid for images, who knows, but then who may or may not have paid for a lawyer. Heaven's sake, who would pay for a lawyer when they could have me? I'll do it for free. No, but you know, there's just that odd thing where you think this is a relatively young lad. He's got a top-notch lawyer there. How's that funded? And I've no doubt the Met Police will be squirreling around, looking into that to see how that has occurred. So from a legal perspective, it's quite interesting. It has that initial offence, paying for images. It would only be an offence until he's 18. And oddly enough, it harks back to what I was saying earlier about having a complainant who doesn't cooperate, on whether or not you can then mount a case against somebody. There does seem to be here some elements, I may be wrong, of images and phone contact. And again, the police will be looking at that and looking very closely into all of that about contact and what that and so seizing phones, analyzing that may take time, and then in due course challenging the person involved as to why they were frankly in contact with this person in the first place. So from a lawyer's perspective, that's quite interesting. But that secondary thing that's come out in the last couple of days about where it said that the lad, sorry, I say lad, he's a young man, has said through his solicitors that nothing bad happened. There may be further implications there. If there's been, for example, if in the last week there's been contact and there's provable contact between them, then that may well be the basis of further charges. So there's pressure brought to bear on a young, potentially vulnerable person being told, don't say anything. And I'm afraid to say, you know, it happens to lots of people. This one happens to be male. A lot of them are female who find themselves in that position. But who can say? But Keith, I'd be interested to know what your views are from a, dare I say it, a filthy old journalist's point of view.
Oh, I mean, first of all, I think in my discussions with Philip, I said that I always have a deep sense of unease about some of these cases because I'm not at all sure that we're not judging on the mores of today what was done yesterday, and under a different set of laws, a different set of morality, a different view of things. I mean, the BBC that I worked for in the 1970s is quite different to the BBC today, and it is, I think that just based on what I know about this case, and I've deliberately not tried to dig. I mean, I've not even tried to guess who it is, which has become the national game, of course. Are we looking at things from a modern point of view with things that would have been perfectly acceptable in the 1970s? Actually, I mean, I go back because I'm long enough in the truth, is to the early 1960s. And if it was, if a lot of the sex cases today were judged in those terms, everybody would have been in jail. It was a different set of mores.
I agree with you entirely in terms of the ethos thing. This is, of course, by the sounds of it, something that's happened in the last 4 years. So I don't think any of that engages. And I do lots of cases about historic.
Yeah. But I'm just interested to see how you actually handle the difference in public attitudes. I mean, for instance, the other thing is that this is happening at the BBC. I'm not condoning it. Don't misunderstand. I'm just saying that it happens, and you look at it from the fact point of view, and yet it would appear that young footballers are doing this sort of thing all the time, and everybody sort of wipes their hands because football is a sacred cow.
That's an interesting topic in itself, as you know. At some point, Keith, we could have a separate talk about why footballers never get convicted, which is the truth of it. And I know the difficulties in terms of the ethos, the mores, as you say, between the late 60s, 70s. You know, I've done cases back. I've certainly done cases where the sexual allegations predate me being born, for heaven's sake. You know, I'm an old fella. But, and I hope I don't alarm you with this, Keith, and I hope that you don't go home thinking that I'm going to come and arrest you. I promise you I won't, for slapping somebody on the bottom in 1967. But the truth is, the law's the law, and just because people got away with it, in the same, let me give you a completely different example. Drink driving. I remember growing up, and adults, may I just say this for clarity, I have never driven, and very occasionally, modestly, I drink, and I've left my bloody glass of red downstairs, so there we
go. Yes, that's very sad, if I may say so.
I know, seriously, my throat's getting very dry. But it doesn't make it right that people did it. And I've had I'm sure I've told you this before, Keith, but I've had cases where there are people my age, 56, I'll confess up to it, where they have, as men, as adult men, have come into the witness box and said, when I was at prep school, that man there in the dock sexually abused me, and I have never felt able to have a proper relationship sexually with anybody, and I've had a terrible sense of guilt as a consequence of it all, and I didn't feel able to tell anybody for many years, and it's a relief to do it. And then they cry. Now, I'm not saying it's like the BBC case. I don't know about the BBC case. But it's important that people like those who were victims, were found to be victims, the defendant in that particular case went to prison for life, full life. No chance of coming back out. Are able to have their say. Because just, you know, it's not so, you know, dare I say it, Keith, you sound like my father. You know, that was back in the day. Yeah, some things were acceptable, which wouldn't be acceptable now. There are words that we don't use anymore. There are comments that would no longer be acceptable. But physical sexual contact was never acceptable without consent. Sorry, I'm not.
Actually, strange enough, I don't know why, I was ruminating about something else today, and I was recalling the News of the World, which used to have its sexual stories, and it would say, and they went upstairs, and he was intimate with her.
Yes. No. The only good thing, Keith, there aren't many good things about. Well, no, there are several good things about being a criminal barrister. You get to dress up, get to put a wig and a gown on. That's quite nice. You get to talk to people who have to listen to you, which is a change from, for example, my family, who don't listen to a word I say. But the other thing is that a great advantage is that where explicit language is used and recorded in the witness statements, you can effectively put your quotes around it and use it as much as you like. And I know that there was one judge who's now retired, very nice, you know, very posh fella, in fact. And he would just relish using the F word if he could. And if a case involved the F word, somebody using the F word, he would repeat it about 8 to 12 times in his summing up. Because I would imagine if he went home to Mrs. Judge, he wasn't allowed to say, so he was venting his spleen in court. And it is a joy. It is a joy. I have stories about that, but I can't possibly tell you on air, Keith. I'm sorry.
All right. Tell me this. What would have your reaction have been as a parent? In Northern Ireland, of course, it's only quite recently, relatively recently, that being gay was not against the law. And my daughter was a fashion model. And when she was, 17 or 18, she would come home the next day after a very big show that was perhaps away from home. And she'd say, "It's all right, Mum, I slept with Brian," meaning her boss, who was gay. In other words, she's saying, "Perfectly okay, I wasn't naughty, and so on." But I mean, what she's doing is admitting that she slept with somebody who was patently breaking the law.
Well, if it's just sleeping in the same bed, that's not breaking the law, is
it? I don't know, is it?
No, it's definitely not. It might be unwise because the youngster might end up making allegations, but no, it's not. No.
Yeah.
And well, good on her that she felt sufficiently liberated, no doubt, by your and your wife's assistance, that she was able to, take that on board, as it were. That,
yes. Not to go down too many different paths, but they had a very, very strong relationship, my wife and my daughter, and they would talk about almost anything quite openly with one another. But I always thought that it was faintly amusing that her reason for saying "it's all right, Mum, I wasn't a naughty girl" was sleeping with a man.
Yeah. There's. Oh gosh, don't get me started on that, please. Don't get me started on that. Just coming back to, if I may, this BBC case, which is, I know, something that everybody's interested in. And working through. How do you see it resolving itself, Keith?
Well, I, once again, I think perhaps I'm dealing in red herrings for you, but having worked for the BBC, I understand how its bureaucracy works, and I don't differentiate between its bureaucracy and that of the NHS and other quasi-government organisations. The people at the coalface, the doctors and the nurses, and for that matter, the broadcasters and the journalists and so on, are quite different to the people who supposedly are running it and who really are the BBC or the NHS or whatever. I'm never absolutely sure how they think at any given time. For instance, I remember in Northern Ireland being in quite a serious conversation with a chap who was over from London, who argued that the BBC was important to itself and therefore quite beyond any sort of criticism. And he meant it.
Oh dear.
Now, the other thing is that I'm not going to mention names, but in my day, a very well-known, even well-known today, presenter was having an affair with a producer, a senior producer in the same department. And the manual at the BBC quite clearly stated that you could not be in the same department. The manuals were recalled and the offending pages taken out and the manual redistributed. within 24 hours because of the power of the people involved.
In fact, very oddly enough, Keith, this evening, I'm not quite home alone. My youngest daughter is here, and I cooked her dinner before I spoke to you. The balance of my family are just squandering my inheritance in Glyndebourne, and I won't begin to tell you how much that costs by way of frocks and picnics and bloody everything else. But I would pay you good money not to have to go there myself, as you know, because I'm a good old socialist. But I was talking to her about somebody that she knows well, who is an actor, a very well-known actor, who I know got a super injunction. Now, a super injunction is something that says you can't report what I've done, and you can't even report the fact that I've got this super injunction. It's one of those things that Ryan Giggs, for example, got originally, and it came tumbling out. But this actor kept his, and it remains in place. And it involves some deeply unattractive conduct on his part. Not criminal, but deeply unattractive. And so, you know, it may well be that whoever this presenter is could get themselves a super injunction and get away with it. The other side of it, of course, which is an interesting little tantalizing side of it, albeit the minister today said they wouldn't do it, is you've got what's called parliamentary privilege, and you'll know what that is, Keith.
Uh-huh.
It means that in Parliament, you are not subject to the rules of defamation. And as I've told you before, the rule, you know, defamation is lowering somebody in the minds of right-thinking people, either in writing, libel, or in words, slander. That's why libel and slander are just two parts of the same thing. It's like zebras and horses. But Parliament retains its privilege, that is the right to, if they wish to, name and shame. And I think you'll confirm this, Keith, that once Parliament has said something, the journalists like you have a right to report what's said in Parliament.
Right. It goes into Hansard.
Well, it goes into Hansard and then it's in the public domain.
Yes.
So I don't know who it is. I don't want to know who it is, frankly. But all it takes is for one member of Parliament to stand up and say, you know, I name whatever, however they wish to crowbar it into a question, and then it's there in the public domain, and,
yes.
and there's simply nothing that any of us, you know, when it comes out, Keith, about your multi-million-pound drugs empire, and somebody in Parliament says that about you, I won't be able to defend you, mate. I'm sorry. You know, that would just be.
I was relying upon that.
I know you were. But you've got your island in the middle of the Pacific, with your den there, and
Your advice is for me to bugger off there.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, you've got the long-haired white cat that you stroke, and at the moment there's no James Bond, so I think you're fine. I do think you're fine. But you know, it's a very interesting developing story, this one, isn't it?
It is. One of the things that, before we leave it, is that a number of other presenters named have rushed to say, it's not me, Gov. And one thing that is, really good journalists, and I actually worked, I have to be careful what I say, because I didn't work directly, but for Dow Jones. And they had something called an enterprise story. And an enterprise story is where you took a tiny little scrap of information that didn't smell right to you, and you built on it, and you built on it, and you built on it until you got a proper story. And I would have thought that these people who are saying it's not me are flagging to a good investigative journalist. Hang on, if he thinks that people think it's him doing this, then what is he guilty of? And I'd be sniffing around.
No, I can quite understand that. Also, the other difficulty is that if you've got 20 high-profile journalists who might be in the frame, and 19 of them say it's not me, then you have an answer as to who it is. But you're quite right. It shows a lack of solidarity between them.
Listen, when you get above the average pay grade in media, not just the BBC, in any media, it is, believe me, you're amongst the sharks.
I will never be above the average pay grade, so that's right. I will be putting shelves at the Leicester stores for years to come. But I will be, and I encourage all of your viewers to go to the Leicester Road stores. Raj and Dolly are wonderful there. And if they don't have in what you want in, they'll have it in tomorrow. I promise you that. So there's a little bit of advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not very far away.
No. For example, I said, look, I quite like coffee. I know that's an odd thing. And he just gets jars of coffee. So every day I have a jar of cockles.
That is service.
That's proper service, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a wonderful way to end off our conversation. We have, in fact, been talking 46 minutes and 10 seconds.
Good grief. Time goes so quickly when we're having
Absolutely. But, once again, Richard, what you bring to our viewing public, I was going to say to the table, but to our viewing public is a lot of information. We all make a basic mistake, I think, in all our professions of thinking that everybody knows all about it, and therefore, we don't have to do much explanation. We just use what we use within the profession. And in fact, I hate to use the word ignorance, but for the sake of argument, let's use the word ignorance. The ignorance of what you do and what I do, and so on and so forth, is widespread. And to bring in a little bit of insight into stuff that we think is perhaps ordinary common stuff is very important, and you do it extremely well.
You're very kind. I wouldn't use the word ignorant. I just think it's that different people have different lives. If my dear old father was still alive, I'd have him on here and he'd tell you how to deal with a dodgy carburettor on an Austin 7. A sort of pre-war car. So people have different skills, and I'm sure your viewer and his dog have skills of their own. I don't know how to go outside and whittle in the street without being arrested. But probably that dog does.
Yes. I must say that my own view of your profession has always been, I want to be Judge John Deed and bonk my way through the cases in front of me.
There are things I could say about that, but again, there are not things that I can say for a whole range of reasons. Obvious that Mrs. B might one day hear on that subject. The next time we see each other over a glass, I'll fill you in.
Very well.
Keith, it's lovely to see you. Thank you for accommodating me this evening.
Oh, no, thank you for taking the time, because you had a very heavy day, and I do appreciate you taking the time and the effort to go into your upper chamber, having cooked your daughter a meal, waved your wife goodbye as she disappeared to Glyndebourne, and then bothered to come and give a very good explanation to the 700 dogs and the man.
And I think I can quite justify to say that the goldfish bowl of red that I'm going downstairs to pour myself will not touch the sides. Keith, lovely to speak to you. I'm hoping that either Thursday or Friday I'll be available. I'll keep you posted, I promise you.
Yeah, that's great.
And Philip will be available, and you know we've got a topic to talk about.
Yes. Yes. And the one thing that I like is when you are available is that normally you like early in the morning, and you really get us off to a great start to the day.
I'm like the shipping. You know, people might say I'm the shipping forecast, but anyway. Keith, lovely to see you, mate.
See you later in the week.
You take care.
Take care. Well, there you are. Is that Richard Barton, good value for money, and letting us know what on earth is going on in the court and the Crown Courts particularly, as he ploughs his way through a week. And now, what I'm going to do is, I hope I'm going to do, is I'm just going to show us the ghost train while we get hold of Melissa Conti from New York. And is sometimes it just as a little something to keep us going in that couple of minutes before she arrives with us. So here you go, the ghost train. He said.
Many people find commuting by train tiresome. But one of the pleasures of taking a train to London is that it passes through some of the most beautiful countryside in the UK. None more so than the view of the countryside as the line approaches Clayton Tunnel, just north of Brighton. The tunnel is the longest on the line, at 1.25 miles, running under the South Downs. It's unusual because the entrance is not the usual railway brick. It is instead designed to look like the gateway to a castle. On top is a cottage built for the railway's lightkeeper in 1849. The tunnel itself was opened in 1841 and the cottage added later. Idyllic. But after 1861 it became a nightmare, or at least for those who believe in ghostly goings-on. In August of that year, a night train left Brighton, travelling north to London. Partway through the tunnel, it stopped at what it thought was a danger signal from the lightman. The engine driver was correct. The railway official had indeed given a danger signal, but the train had rushed past him before pulling up. Thinking the train had cleared the tunnel, the unfortunate lightman gave the all clear to a following train. And it slammed into the back of the first train in the dark, killing 23 and injuring 176 more. It was the worst ever accident on the line. And people walking on the downs over the underground passage have reported hearing the screams of the passengers as the trains pile into each other. The line is now also a direct line from Lewes. I've travelled through that tunnel 1,000 times. I've never heard a scream other than the screech of the wheels and brakes. But I've never walked over the downs at that point either. And I turned down an invitation to stay in the cottage overnight. In fact, I get tense each time I go into the tunnel, knowing what had happened more than 165 years ago. But my fellow passengers carry on reading their newspapers, obviously oblivious to both the tragedy and the ghosts. I could sometimes scream at them. The ghosts of Clayton Tunnel. Eerie. Bloody eerie.
Oh, there we are. The video wasn't that hot, but you can get some idea of the disaster that took place in that 1854 on the line between Brighton and London, and in a tunnel. That was the biggest disaster of its time. Now, what has popped up on the little box underneath my the wittering on here is a beautiful lady, and let's bring her in direct from New York. Is good morning, Melissa.
Well, good morning. Who's that beautiful lady? I don't see anything.
Oh, I do.
I'm sorry, I'm just very tired right now.
And it's just
Very
not
tired.
just I am the beholder either. Beautiful lady you are. In fact, I get a lot of comments saying because some people obviously new to the station just get a glimpse of you and say, "Who's that beautiful lady?" So that's my friend of 25 years.
Oh, well, thank you there, Keith. You know, I'm getting that echo again that I got last week, so I'm going to take off these earbuds. Let's see if that works.
Okay.
See how that works. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you all right, yes. Can you hear me?
Can we try again? Let's try again.
Yes. All right. Now, we've got to what we'll do is, first of all, you need to send the invite, which we'll do. And just forgive me for a moment while I just send off the thing to New York. I mean, when you think about it, having to hang on for just a moment or two is, oh, hang on, if it may be that Melissa has come back. Let's try. Let's see. Yes, there she is. Add to the stream. How's that?
That's better. Do you hear me?
Yes, indeed, I do, and loud and clear, and it's fine. Yes. So
I'm still getting the echo on this side.
Are you? Oh dear. That doesn't normally happen, does it?
No, I don't know why it's happening. I don't know whether it's maybe it's my new device. It could be I'm on Safari and I'm not on Chrome. I just feel like maybe I should. Why don't you talk to me, Keith?
Well, I'm talking to you for a moment or two, but as you know, the technology side of things frustrates the hell out of me because I'm no good at it, and I'm not really that interested in it. It is at 11:15 after we've finished. I have a young man, a student, who is he's come to work in a hotel just for the summer, and he's a whiz at these sort of things. So I said, well, look, we need somebody to look after this while you're at the hotel. Will you see if you can sort us out? And he said, oh yes, I'd love to. His name is Ahmed, and he's a lovely young man. So hopefully, perhaps for the first time in almost 18 months, that my frustrations will be lifted, and suddenly this stuff will start to work. Cross your fingers, my darling. Now the other thing is that
it may be on my side.
Well, the thing is, at least you'll be able to have a chat to somebody, so that if we've got somebody who understands how to sort it out, it'll be helpful.
That would be great. Yes.
That would be great.
Yes. Now, the other thing I have to report to you is that at long last I've had a direct chat with Miles Jenner of Harley's. He was aware that we wanted to do it, and he said he just had a horrendous early part of the summer. But this coming week, I'm going to set a date, and we're going to at least get him tasting. And if we can actually coordinate it with Connor, so much the better. But anyway, it's
Just to let you know,
gradually,
Connor's birthday is on the 23rd. So maybe it can be a little pre-birthday.
well, we could try on the 23rd, couldn't we?
Or maybe
All right, I'll work on that.
maybe a surprise.
Yes. Well, don't tell him. Yes. Okay. Yeah. What a great idea. And I'm sure. I mean, Miles is a lovely man, and I'm sure that as long as his diary says it, he will go along with it. Yes. That's great.
That whatever it tastes like, it's bad.
Yes. I'm sure he'll be very diplomatic. Whatever. But I mean, the fact is, it wasn't bad, and he followed the recipe fairly closely. So, you know, it is crossing our fingers. And remember that it's being kept at room temperature, and that English beer needs to be kept at room temperature. It's when you chill it that it kills it. So the ruins are good. Okay, now what's been happening in your life since we talked last week?
Let me meditate on that. I don't remember. Working from the office now, more often. I just find that I get very lazy here. Move around a lot. I just don't get to see my friends. It's convenient to work from home. It can be, but I enjoy going. I do. So that's what I'm doing more often. And what else is happening here? I'm going to Maryland tomorrow to visit a friend who's my roommate in college. Kept all these years. So I'm going to visit her. Got lots of dogs and cats. That ought to be fun.
Now, we've got about 20 minutes left. Why don't we just change the schedule a little bit this week? And why don't you talk about the topic that you like to talk about during this period? I never use the right word, but I always sort of say something like impaired, and you say tut. You mustn't use words like that. But you are worried about people who are physically and mentally handicapped or affected in some way, and you've been actually taking a master's degree, and you will continue to take a master's degree, and along the way you're able to apply on this program some of the things which you've been studying. And now I know that you've not been going to university for the last little while because everybody's on holiday, but you do continue to study. So perhaps you would just bring us up to date with what's in front of you now.
Well, I think one of the I get news alerts from our Justice Department. The latest cases came from South Carolina, where they weren't giving people with illness. Oftentimes, what they do is they just throw people with disabilities into a nursing home and they forget about it. That's forget. And so the Justice Department comes in. There's a complaint. They are working with South Carolina to be more proactive to get folks to more of the community centers so they actually can thrive and homes like corner. Because it's denies people their rights. Just not what we do here in the United States. So our Justice Department when cases do come up, to make sure that people with disabilities, mental or physical, are not just thrown away in a dump, so actually being part of the community, so that express whatever their purpose.
Melissa, unfortunately, you're breaking up, and I kept you going as long as we could understand you, but it's just getting worse. I wonder if we could go through the thing again, as whether you would mind just going away and coming back again.
I'll try. Yes.
Okay. The technical part of this business is a blight on all our lives. I go to bed screaming about it and wake up in the morning screaming about it. The rest is fun. And why some days things work and then another day they don't is quite beyond me. It's quite a mystery to me. And I just do not quite understand why these things happen the way that they do. Just to remind you while we're waiting that the main news pages this morning are about a plan by the government to have immigrants pay to the nose to settle here, and that will actually, according to the government, raise enough money to pay the extra money that we need that we need to pay the increase in salaries the public sector are getting, which now is between 5 and 7%. Now, I'm not sure whether I need to send another invitation that I'm going to. Because our chats with Melissa are very important, and she gives us a real insight into what's happening in the States. Hi, stand by. Ahmed is here. Oh, here we go. I heard the little pop. So let's go back. Now we're talking. In fact, add to the screen. Now I was telling you about Ahmed. Amar. Sorry, this is Melissa, who is in New York right now.
Nice to meet you.
This is the young man who is going to solve all our problems. He's going to make sure that we don't have any crackles, any giggles. He's a young genius. Now Melissa is going to university at the moment in Open University part-time, and she's taking social. Is it fair to say a sort of social welfare course?
No, it's disability
Amar
studies.
is going off to university in the autumn. What are you going to take at university?
Finance and accounting.
Oh, finance and accounting. There you are. You see. Now,
Well, goodness gracious, I just happen to be in finance. It's really quite exciting.
There you go. Yeah. Let's see you. Come on. Yeah. Well, it is rather comfortable, rather tight. If you can squeeze in.
I'll try to.
Yeah. There you go. because anything goes in this, as you know, on this station. And the fact that now we're finding out about you, and here's Melissa. So let's turn that around a little bit. There you go. Right. We have to get cozy. Now, just to make you aware, Melissa is very familiar with this hotel.
Oh, nice.
She's been to Lewis several times. She comes here to the hotel. Her son comes with her. And do you know what he's going to do? Tell him what Connor is going to do in January.
He's going to join the U.S. Marine Corps.
Oh, nice.
And he's going to fly faster than sound aircraft.
He's going to be flying F-35.
Oh, nice. His ears might pop though, but I assume he's got that sorted out.
Sorry?
His ears might pop because obviously.
I'm sure that he's thought about that. Actually, Melissa and I have known one another for a long time, and in fact, some years ago, I watched her watching him doing his first solo flight. What was it, in a Cessna?
It was in a Diamond. Or they used the Diamond trainers. For the
Right. So there, her heart was pounding as the very, very first time. So Melissa has been with us for a long time. And in fact, we go back longer than that because we worked together for PGS many years ago. And what we did was we got together every morning and we said, what do we think business would like to hear? And we fabricated the whole thing. No, we didn't. We were terribly honest, straight down the line. Right now, each week, Melissa gives us a little bit of an insight into how people who are hurting in some way. Is that the way to put it?
They're disabled, Keith.
Right, disabled people. I should know. I'm one of them at the moment. He and Shannon here play with my little scooter. They get me in here, make sure that I can't see them. They take the key and they drive the scooter around the hotel.
No, we don't do that. We don't. Rewind. We'll rewind that. We'll delete that tape. So, Melissa, we cut you off in full flow there because of the sound problem. So do carry on because this is in this last 10 minutes. It's the important part of this bit that we do.
Yeah, I'll try to carry on.
I'll try to carry on.
Myself, like annoying myself. You know? So I'm gonna try to get through this. Well, what I do is I the whole issue of people with disabilities, from mental illness, physical disabilities, with people with disabilities, and essentially it's how to help somebody with a disability live their best lives, and not just throw them away in nursing home, which is oftentimes what we've done. In America, there's a strong movement and to allow people who have disabilities to be able to live as normal lives as possible, enjoy their lives. That's what I'm part of my.
And you were actually telling us a little bit about something that was close to your heart, as it were, when the sound problem interrupted us. So can you carry on with that for a minute or two?
Yeah, oftentimes our government where states are taking somebody with mental illness, and throwing them into a nursing home. And really what they need is help. But it costs money. They don't want to spend any money. So our Justice Department comes in and says, you have to spend money. and help people. That's essentially what I will be working on.
So you're going to persuade the Justice Department to spend money?
Well, I mean, we are spending on everybody in the country. We might as well spend money on people who've got a disability and help them. Why would we want to do that? I would imagine that most of us, in any course of our lifetime, you're a young man. At some point in your life, you're going to be confronted with a disability, be a family member, or you're 6-year-old. And we're going to all want to have dignity, and be able to have sovereignty over our lives. So we have to be very careful. We ignore people who are hurting, because we may eventually.
Okay, one final thing. I'm sorry that we're having these technical problems, which is just not making life easy this morning. But Omar Connor is also, prior to going into the Marines, is working as a reporter for NHK. NHK are the big Japanese, the equivalent of the BBC, really, in Japan. Yeah. And he is their North American correspondent, and tearing all over the country, going to the United Nations and going to various hotspots and so on. So which hotspot did he go to this week?
Gosh, I think he stayed locally in New York. Let's see, did he go some places? I don't remember, to be honest. I don't keep up with him. He's all over the place. I do have a question.
Okay.
Was it Omar? Is that your name? Amar.
Yeah.
You're studying finance and accounting. What do you want to
be studying that at university? Because I've just finished college now, so I'm 18, and then in September I'll be going to university.
So what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, see, to be honest with you, I want to get to a state financially where I can just take care of my parents. That's literally it. And I'll take any job for that to happen, to be honest.
Here's what I would tell you. You need to do what is in your heart.
Yeah.
Being in finance and accounting, some people do to make money. It's not a life if you don't love it.
Yeah.
You can make money doing lots of things. I'm in finance. To do the same thing, to make money. But it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not enjoyable. And you're young. I spent a lot of time as a journalist, teacher, a lot of fun things. And now I'm doing some boring things. Don't spend your whole life doing boring.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
And I'll take that, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Now, Melissa, just one last thing is Suzanne Muscio, who is your sort of equivalent on Monday, she I put her in touch with what actually the principal of the small university that I taught at for a year, and in Notting Hill of all places. So me and Julia Roberts, he is just on the point of retirement. So the two of them, because she said she was interested in ongoing education, the two of them are plotting to put together a program which we'll start in September when we come back after our little break on ongoing education. So once again, as New Yorkers strike, and we get some really good stuff out of it.
Very good. I look forward to hearing.
Yeah, I look forward to it as well because I know this man. He's actually he and Suzanne will get along very well together because they're both. I call her my blue-ass fly. Is because she's all over the place, and so is he. So it'd be an interesting combination. All right, my darling. I will be in touch about the beer, and I think that'll be great fun. And I've now got the. Is it the 23rd?
Yes.
Yes. Right. I've got
You
the
want
23rd.
to have Miles meet on the 21st during the week? That's fine.
Okay. We'll arrange it.
Very
We'll
good.
arrange it. I mean, we are in constant touch. So. Okay. Until next week.
Bye. Bye, Owner.
Good meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Right. Okay. There's your introduction to.
Do you want me to end it?
No, not yet. That's our introduction. Your introduction to Mirador Television.
Yep.
We've got people all over the world that we bring in.
Nice.
So we're very unusual for a small television station based in a hotel in a tiny little town.
Yeah.
We punch above our weight, and the important thing is that we all enjoy ourselves doing it too.
Yeah.
But so we'll be delighted if you can help us and spend a little bit of time. I think, as you can see, some of the people that we've got involved is, and you've met a couple here as well, we're quite good fun.
Yeah.
We don't get overly serious and shout at one another.
Yeah.
Well, not often anyway.
Well, don't mind a bit of shouting there and then if it's needed, if it's necessary.
Right now, it's 2 minutes to go. It's 58. I think that we can safely call the week a week, and we'll say cheerio.
Yeah.
And then you and I can have a nice chat.
Yeah.
Toodle pip, everybody. Say toodle pip, Anna.
Toodle pip.
Toodle pip.
Toodle pip, everyone.
It's an old English way of saying hello and goodbye.
Oh.
Right?
Toodle pip, everyone.
Toodle pip. There you go. He's into the swing of things already. Okay. See you, man.